I call Senator Hume.
Thank you very much, Mr President. I rise this evening to offer my most sincere and heartfelt congratulations to those recipients of this year's Australia Day honours. Mr President, those recognised in these honours are Australians from across our great nation who have selflessly dedicated their time in pursuit of a better Australia to be shared by all. And hailing from all walks of life, they are exemplary in their leadership, their commitment and their resolve, the three pillars of the Australian spirit. These Australians have taken to heart the words of the old proverb which exhorts us all, "Be the change you want to see in the world." Mr President, as all of the members of this chamber well know, I am an immensely proud Victorian. And as is the case year in and year out, Victorians are very well represented in this round of Australia Day honours, and I wish to wholeheartedly congratulate all Victorian recipients for the recognition of their achievements, each and every one so richly deserved. More specifically, I would like to single out my congratulations and thanks to the following Victorian recipients who have so significantly contributed to and strengthened the fabric of our society through service and dedication in their respective fields. Professor Caroline Frances Finch of Soldiers Hill, being made an officer in the General Division of the Order of Australia for distinguished service to sports medicine, and particularly in the area of injury prevention as an educator, researcher and author, and to the promotion of improved health in athletes. Ms Joanna Hayter from Fairfield, being made an officer in the General Division of the Order of Australia for distinguished service to women in the areas of gender equality and individual rights through leadership and policy development roles, and to the promotion of global health, peace and security. Ms Nuala Helen McLeod from East Keilor, for being made an officer AO in the General Division of the Order of Australia for distinguished service to the community through advisory support and executive leadership of national, state and rural women's programs and associations. The Honourable William Robert Baxter from Rutherglen, for being made a member AM of the General Division of the Order of Australia for significant service to the people and Parliament of Victoria. Ms Mary Therese Draper from Alphington, for being made a member and AM of the General Division of the Order of Australia for significant service to community health as a consumer advocate through contributions to delivery standards and governance and to stakeholder engagement. Adjunct Professor Ian Maxwell Dunn from North Fitzroy, for being made a member and AM of the General Division of the Order of Australia for significant service to the law, to legal standards, education and specialist training, specialist accreditation, and as a practitioner in the areas of negotiation and dispute resolution. Mr Kenneth Nicholas Manchingo from Quarry Hill, for being made a member AM of the General Division of the Order of Australia for significant service to the community through social welfare programs and associations, and particularly assistance for the homeless. Mr Gary William Morgan AFSM from Alfredton in Victoria, for being made a member AM of the General Division of the Order of Australia for significant service to the community through emergency response organisations and to forest and fire research and management. The Honourable Professor Howard Thomas Nathan QC from Bendigo, for being made a member and AM of the General Division of the Order of Australia for significant service to the law and to the judiciary through the Supreme Court of Victoria and to a range of cultural, arts and education institutions. And Professor David George Wood from Toowoomba, for being made an AM of the General Division of the Order of Australia for significant service to chemical engineering education as a researcher, mentor and academic, and to professional organisations. To the recipients of the Order of Australia Medal OAM in the General Division, my sincere congratulations go to Mr Robert Gordon Barth of Ballarat for diligent service to the community of Ballarat, Mr Gordon Bruce Campbell from Rutherglen for passionate service to the wine industry, Ms Carmel Monica Clemson of Gibson for selfless service to the community of Macedon, Mr David Bruce Gay of Clifton Hill for industrious service to business and to environmental pest management, Ms Jean Lynette Hamilton of Euroa for active service to the community of Longwood, the Reverend Father Edwin Joseph Hart from Bendigo for tireless service to the Catholic Church of Australia and to the community, Mr Claude Lombard of Keilor Park for the invaluable service to the community in a range of roles, Ms Margaret Ann Lonsdale from Keilor East for service to dance sport, Mrs Marilyn Gale McWalter from Whittlesea for her service to the community of Whittlesea, Mr John Barry Mildren from Ballarat Central for noble service to the Parliament of Australia and to the community of Ballarat, Mr John Hume Mitchell of Corryong for altruistic service to the community as a philanthropist, Mr Graham Stephen Pearce of Manjarang for service to the community of Manjarang, and Mrs Margaret Ann Saker of Benalla for service to the community of Narooma, Mr Peter John Stoke from Bright for untiring service to the conservation of Victorian malleefowl, Mr John Charles Taylor of Myrtleford for service to the community of Myrtleford, and Ms Carmel Tom from Werribee for patriotic service to veterans, Mr Alistair Walker from Gisborne for service to the community of Victoria through a variety of roles, Ms Frances Adeline Walsh from Rutherglen to service to local government and to the community of the Indigo Shire. I wholeheartedly congratulate those who have been awarded medals for their outstanding and selfless public service. And while there are too many to name individually, I would like to make a special mention just a few. Mr Adam Philip Fennessy of Bendigo for outstanding public service to a range of government departments in Victoria, Mr Russell Keith Manning from Bendigo, who's been awarded the Australian Fire Service Medal for outstanding public service to a range of government departments, Mr Glenn David Marks of Darley, who has been awarded the Australian Fire Service Medal for 38 years of outstanding public service to the Metropolitan Fire Brigade, and Miss Melissa Buckingham from Buninyong, who has been awarded the Ambulance Service Medal for her outstanding public service through leadership and development roles during her 30 years at Ambulance Victoria. And finally, Mr President, I would like to extend my personal and warmest congratulations to a diligent and conscientious servant of the Liberal Party of Australia, and Mr Brian Loughnane's service has been duly recognised in this year's Australia Day honours through his appointment as an Officer of the Order of Australia AO. Brian has held a variety of positions as a business and political strategic advisor, most notably, of course, as Federal Director of the Liberal Party from February 2003 until January 2016. Mr President, I would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate and pay my respect to all the members of Australia's Defence Force, both here and those deployed overseas. All of the members of the ADF serve as role models for the rest of our country, for their unrivalled selflessness, their teamwork and their incredible bravery. It is wonderful that our great nation does not take for granted the hard work and the dedication and the sacrifice of these great men and women. Mr President, this evening I would especially like to congratulate those recipients of the military crosses, the medals and the commendations, many of whom cannot be publicly named due to their ongoing operational commitments. Mr President, there are two very, very special times of the year in which the government and the community can express our sincere gratitude to those exemplary citizens who represent the very, very best of the Australian spirit. It is an absolute honour to be able to stand here this evening to name and to honour these dedicated and conscientious Victorians. I thank the Chamber for its indulgence.